what you can let us know if we're taking the piss, or you can take the piss back, or whatever. It's just like we're more fun, so not so heavy for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
We are
Cool.
set up and ready, good to go, whatever you tell me. Wait a minute.
Got so many bits of paper today, it's driving me crazy.
Geez, you're all over the
Well,
place, Dave.
Here we go.
I don't just say this. If you're not going to be quote heavy,
Yeah.
then don't introduce some fantastic concept that needs a big backstory. Otherwise, you're justified.
It's true.
Yeah, totally.
Right?
Yeah. Because then people are like,
Okay.
don't get it.
How do you say your last name?
Ike.
Ike.
Forget
Okay,
the C.
right. He is one of the world's most famous conspiracy theorists.
But is he? See, I'm a
Is he?
conspiracy theorist as well.
You were just suspicious. David Icke is here for his worldwide Wake Up tour in New Zealand. And David, hello, how are you?
I'm all right. I'm a bit tired, actually. It's been a long few weeks, but yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, first of all, you used to be like a football commentator. Why the hell did you stop doing that for this boring garbage?
Well, first of all, it's not boring. Secondly, it's not garbage. And I stopped doing it because I got rheumatoid arthritis, which is
Right.
not actually a great way of stopping footballs, really, when you've got arthritis in your hands.
Right.
Really. The thing about conspiracy theorists, by the way, that's what's thrown around all the time. Conspiracy theories, conspiracy theory. That actually came from the CIA and is still being repeated. In the 1960s, when people with half a brain cell on active duty were questioning the official story, brackets ludicrous, of the Kennedy assassination, and then connecting it to the assassination of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Bobby Kennedy in the same period, the CIA contacted major organizations in America. The documents exist, you can read them, to urge them to use the term conspiracy theorist or conspiracy theory to discredit people who were challenging all that stuff.
Undermine, like, what you have to say.
Yeah, because what it is, no, it's a theory. Now, this is the interesting thing about theory. This is a theory. I think this is what's happening. That's a theory.
Right.
But when you are dealing with hard, connected facts, like the book before the last one, The Perception Deception, it's nearly 1,000 pages.
Wow.
You're not sitting there pulling it out of the ether, smoking something, saying, oh, I think this is what it is, it's a theory. You're not doing that. It's actually a hard fact. And so, but to say it's a theory, because there's this genetic problem that people have, not least in the media. You can't say conspiracy without theory afterwards. You know, you try and the theory will come out. You won't be able to stop yourself because of the way that it's become the way you talk about people like me.
So what's the one thing that you go around telling people about that people may seem as the biggest theory or the most ludicrous, wherever you find?
Well, it's not about one. You see, people say about people like me, you see conspiracies everywhere. No, I don't. I see one conspiracy with multiple faces. And that conspiracy is the incessant centralization of power in every area of our lives. And every time you centralize power a bit more, fewer people are dictating to the lives of more. And this has been in my books like for 25 years that this was coming. You've got a situation, they actually give it a name some years ago now, globalization. That's the centralization of power in all areas of our lives. And so if you look at politics, you look at finance, you look at business, you look at corporations, everything is focusing power in fewer and fewer hands. Thus, the few and fewer are controlling everybody else. But if you want an example of a, quote, theory that is actually provable fact, let's look at 9/11.
Oh, yeah, was that an inside job?
Well, let's kind of have a little sobering kind of reminder, right? Mm-hmm. It's accepted widely by virtually everybody now that the Blair and Bush administrations lied through their teeth about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq to justify the invasion and mass slaughter of the innocent. Let us just remember, the very same people, not the same agencies, the same people who told us about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq when they knew they weren't there, were the same people who gave us the official story of 9/11. Let's also remember that it was 9/11 that was the trigger that led to the sequence of events that's led to the catastrophe, including the invasion of Iraq, catastrophe in the Middle East. And I show in the talk in Auckland on Saturday, and I show in my books in detailed, documented fact, how there is a seamless process or movement of events from 9/11 right through to present day. Mohammed Attar, right? He was the lead hijacker. He was an extreme Muslim, right? Well, actually, according to his American girlfriend, and you can see the interview on the internet, he was a cocaine addict. Secondly, he was often blind drunk, and thirdly, his favourite food was pork. Another thing about 9/11: how many people know that at exactly the same time those planes were being, quote, hijacked, that there were a stream of exercises going on, run by the American military and Air Force, mirroring what happened
Right.
on 9/11, including a scenario they were working towards of a plane being flown into a building in Washington. What's the chances of that happening on the very morning of this 9/11? And I've seen the logs of something called NORAD, which is the organization in America and Canada that's supposed to react to hijackings and threats to North America from the sky. And when the calls came in about the 9/11 hijackings, they were completely scrambled. They were saying, is this real or is this exercise? And a lot of people have pointed out, quite rightly, that there was a complete lack of response to the hijackings in terms of planes scrambled into the sky that there would normally be. Two reasons for that. One, the response was scrambled because is this real or is this exercise? And secondly, a load of the planes that were not where they would normally be that morning because they were out on the exercise.
Yeah, but you know how absurd that sounds. You know, like that a government would do that to their own people. Or do you think it just went better than what they expected and they didn't expect the towers to go down? You must realise as you're saying these things how absurd that sounds. It's like saying that New Zealand won't be here in 20 years.
It sounds absurd if you don't do any research.
Right.
Absolutely absurd to people who don't do research. That's why they get away with it. If you look at two organisations, for instance, there is an organisation of professional airline pilots that fly wide-body jets who set up this organisation. There's thousands of them, specifically because they wanted to make the point that the official story of how those planes were flown and who flew them was ludicrous. There's another organisation made up of architects and engineers doing exactly the same, saying that this official story of how the buildings come down are being hit by the planes is impossible. So, what you can do is you can sit there like a good little boy and a good little girl, and you can just let Mummy, Daddy, State tell you what to think. But there's a thing in the world. There are still some left. They're called journalists, and their job is to question authority and see if what authority is telling the public stands up. If it does, fair enough. But it often doesn't.
I'm now more worried about this. We're not going to be here in 20 years. What's that?
That was something you said a long time ago.
You said don't get into anything deep. So
obviously.
Oh, well, it's too late.
You go there.
No, but what was the New Zealand thing? 'Cause this is one of the things you're famous for here. You said New Zealand.
It's 25 years ago. It's a long backstory, far too long for an interview like this. And we've just talked. We have just talked about something which has transformed the frickin' world, right? Has transformed global society, has justified taking vast amounts of basic freedoms away, introduced fundamental surveillance of the population worldwide, right? I mean, anybody think that might be important? No, it's a joke. No, it's a joke, mate. It's a joke, mate. Have a good laugh. Have a good laugh. Have a good laugh. It's a joke.
No, but
it's a joke.
When you live in New Zealand and you get told your country's not going to be here in 20 years.
It's a joke. There you go. There you go. Let's have a good laugh.
David,
Why do you think thousands of people come to watch my events? Why do you think there's going to be 4,000 people in Romania? Because they're not as intelligent as you are? Is that the reason?
No. They just have different beliefs.
Oh, God.
Okay, no, but what...
No, I tell you what they are.
No, but this was a fact. This is a fact that you had wrong. You said New Zealand wasn't going to be here in 20 years, and you were doing a show.
They have the self-respect to do some research.
Right, but you've kept, even after saying New Zealand wouldn't be here in 20 years, you're coming here to do a show. Isn't it a little embarrassing?
No, well, I mean...
It must be a little bit.
There's a massive backstory to that, which is far too long
But the bottom line is you were wrong about that.
And?
Well, what's to say you're right about 9/11 being an inside job?
All right, so all these pilots and all these architects, they're talking nonsense as well, right? They're talking nonsense. They've set up these organisations for nothing, right? Right?
I don't.
No, you don't know. You don't know. You don't know, and you don't know, and that's the problem.
Right.
And you know something else? You won't even bother to know either, and that's how they get away with it. There is a responsibility in journalism, and there is responsibility in the media, and that's to do your frickin' job of questioning when authority tells us what is and what isn't, to see if that's true. If you're not doing that, if it's a laugh, you're not doing your job, and you're letting down the people that are listening to this programme.
Okay, but New Zealand...
I'm a trusting person.
Right.
I'm a trusting person, so I just believe what the government tells me or whatever.
What are you doing in the media then?
Well, I'm on entertainment radio, I'm not a journalist. But I wonder, is it distrust or just like suspicion perhaps that you think that the government is lying?
It's fact. Let me give you another 9/11 story. 1962. This is on the official congressional or the official American record. It's there to be read. It was an operation called Operation Northwoods, and it was signed off by a guy called Lemnitzer, who was the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff that run the Pentagon during the Kennedy period in about 1962. And this is what they planned to do, and it's on the record. They planned to create terrorist attacks, terrorist bombs in Washington, New York, Miami, to sink ships of people coming from Cuba to America to flee the Castro regime, and to shoot planes out of the sky over Cuba, all to justify an invasion of Cuba. And when you see the detail they went to in those documents of how they were going to do this, to totally scam the people in the world to believe that all these things were done by Castro's Cuba when it was done by the American military, the Pentagon. And now you look at current events around the world. What happens every time there's a terrorist event? More freedoms are taken away, or some more innocent people with brown faces are bombed in the Middle East, right? We've got to have a bit of maturity here, because I have children, I have grandchildren, and the reason I do what I do is I don't want them to live in the world that's coming if we go on looking the other way and thinking what a freaking laugh it is.
So you think most people just believe what they're told because they don't bother doing the research?
Yes, exactly.
They don't bother doing the work.
Exactly that. And what people that come to my events are people who've done their own research, and therefore think, hey, this is something in this. Why are people on their feet at the end of 12 hours in Perth and Sydney and all these other places? What, because they've heard a load of crap for the last 12 hours? No, because it's made sense.
Okay, but back to the New Zealand thing. You know, you made the statement, and look, we're doing okay.
Oh, God, man. You know, oh, dear.
What? No, you said that you thought New Zealand would disappear 20 years ago.
I'm so glad there are at least some journalists in the world. You not being one.
No, but this is this is the one thing you're not answering.
On and on.
You're going on about things that we haven't even brought up, but this is the thing you're not answering, and here you are in this country that you said would disappear.
There's a big backstory to that, which I explained at the start of the talks, actually. So people will be able to see that on Saturday. It's too long to talk about here, and especially, what is that all you can talk about? Have you got another question about what's going on in the world?
Yeah, the moon landing, was that real or fake?
I have no idea.
Right. Okay. What about were the All Blacks poisoned at the World Cup where they got beaten in the final by South Africa?
I have no idea.
It was Elvis, alive or dead?
You see, here we go.
Do you think the end of the world is actually coming, and that all of humanity will be wiped off?
No, I don't. What I do not only say is coming. I mean, open your flipping eyes and just watch what's happening to the world. We are heading into a world that would make George Orwell wince. In fact, George Orwell and Aldous Huxley, Brave New World, were not coming totally from their imagination. Because they knew each other. Huxley taught Orwell French at the elite Eton College near Windsor Castle, where the royals go. And there is a projected agenda for the world, and if you access it, you can predict in theme and much detail where the world is going, unless there's an intervention to stop it. And that's why Orwell, with his police state and his endless war. What is the endless war? The war on terror. When do you know war on terror has ended? You don't. It's an endless war. And Huxley, with his psychological drugs and genetic projections for the future, the reason they have been shown to be so accurate in terms of unfolding events is because they weren't coming completely from imagination.
Is it frustrating going through life when you have done this research and you have these beliefs and then you, I don't know, rub shoulders with someone like say
doubters,
and people that doubt you, whatever?
You seem very angry.
No, it's not about doubt. It's not about being doubted. It's the lack of research you see in people.
Sorry, I don't have time to read your 1,000-page books in anticipation of this interview.
No, you can't. No.
I'll wait for the movie to come out.
But you can actually look at the world in a bit more of a expanded way instead of just accepting the official story without question. That is another alternative.
Yeah.
So you give people something to think about.
Yeah, that's the point. And if you think that the electromagnetic spectrum is 0.005% of what exists in the universe according to mainstream science, and visible light, which is the only frequency band that we can actually see in a world that we call the world we see, is a tiny fraction of the 0.005%. And even in that sliver of frequency that we can actually see, this planet, compared with the projected size of the universe, is about equivalent to a billionth the size of a pinhead. Do you think there might be more to know than we know? I think there might be.
Oh, now, Randall's a religious guy. So he believes that there's an afterlife. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely.
You think so?
There's not an afterlife, there's a continuation of life, that's what it is.
Right, what do you mean exactly?
Eh?
What do you mean exactly? Like, is there what do you mean a continuation of life?
Well, we are consciousness, we are a state of being aware, we are awareness. Thus we're awareness now in what we call human. And then when we leave the body, we're aware in another form. This is what happens with near-death experiences when they leave the body and experience a dramatically expanded sense of reality, sense of perception. Because this body is like a biological computer. It focuses our attention in this tiny band of frequency we call visible light, which is so tiny it's laughable. And when you leave the body, you leave that focus of attention. You lose that that you're only experiencing that tiny band of frequency, and so you are experiencing a much more expanded reality. Thus, near-death experiences describe that exact experience when they tell their stories of what happened.
But there's no heaven or hell.
Well, it depends how you do it. I mean, there's a lot of people in hell on this earth who are living in homeless situations. I mean, I went around Australia. It's a country of 24 million people. The money there is stunning, and it's people sleeping in the streets.
Yeah.
And to them, that will be a form of hell. Hell is a state of being. It's not a place. So you can have hell on earth and you can have heaven on earth. It depends on your state of being and what's actually happening to you.
David Icke's worldwide wake up tour is on this Saturday at the Logan Campbell Centre in Auckland, and you can still buy tickets for that. But what sort of people come to the show? Like, what sort of people do you want to come along and buy tickets and stuff?
Well, whoever wants to come.
I mean, like, what are
What's
you? What are
funny about that, man?
Ignore him.
Unbelievable. You are extraordinary. Go and have a good laugh.
That was a good answer.
No. What I would say is this: when
that's like an Easter show, maybe.
Give your ears a chance for a second. What I would say is when we were in Sydney, the audience was of all racial backgrounds. The youngest was about Jay, 15, and the oldest was 95. And what connects all those people? Something you might think about, mate. An open mind.
Yeah.
That's what connects them. So people with open minds come. People with closed minds laugh.
Well, you've got a huge following, over 1 million fans across Facebook and YouTube. And,
I was laughing because I thought that was a great answer. It's like any show, any movie, any concert, whoever wants to come.
I maybe you've got a sense of humour to me. Oh, all right, that's great.
He definitely has. He definitely has.
Well, do you have a sense of humour?
Dominic!
Absolutely, I do. Oh yeah, it's just not yours.
He's trying to wind
Actually, that was a good one.
I can
I
see
get your
what
sense of
he's
humour now.
doing. David, thank you for coming in.
That's no problem.
Thank you for giving Dom a bit of shit. We
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah,
And,
always.
and
Good stuff.
Good luck. I hope you enjoy your show on Saturday. Get some
Yeah.
rest.
Thank you.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Mate.
Thank